Good afternoon. This is Pam Menaker, and I'm hoping everybody can hear me. I'm the communications partner at Clifford Law Offices. It's 12 noon, and I know all of your time is valuable. I first wanted to let everybody know that we are recording this, as we mentioned in the press release, and it will be available then for viewing, or if you need to use it later, you can take it from our website. It'll be posted shortly after the press conference concludes. Also, just so that all of you know, the complaints in federal court were filed this morning. The lawyers will be talking about that. And those complaints are up on our website. You can find them at cliffordlaw.com with their docket numbers on the home page, under news, under press releases. So a number of places you can find them. And if you have any questions, you certainly can call me. I think all of you have my cell phone number, my email. This afternoon, I'd like to just introduce first the people who will be speaking. And first, I'd like to introduce you to Justin Ruddell. That's Justin Ruddell, 2 D's as in dog, 2 L's as in like. He will be reading a statement that he prepared and then answering questions as best he can later in the press conference. We also have with us partner at Clifford Law Offices, Christopher Riddle. His spelling is Kristofer, Kristofer, middle initial S as in Sam, Riddle, Riddle, 2 D's as in dog. We also have joining us the managing partner at Clifford Law Offices, former judge, the Honorable Henry R. Simmons, Simmons. For right now, then, I would like to turn the press conference over to Mr. Justin Ruddell, Mr. Justin Ruddell, who will be giving you his statement. Thank you. Justin?
Hello, my name is Justin Ruddell, and I was on the Amtrak Empire Builder train that derailed on September 25th. I boarded the train in Chicago to head home to Klamath Falls, Oregon. It was my first experience on an Amtrak train, and I was looking forward to a comfortable, relaxing ride across the country. That afternoon, I headed to a bathroom, and suddenly the train jolted and veered on its side. Before I could do anything, the outside door peeled away, and I found myself with gravel, dirt, rocks, even feces and urine pouring all over me. I thought I was going to die. In the shock and panic, somehow, through the sheer will to survive, I was able to climb out of there. Had I not held on as tightly as I could, I would have been crushed by the train. I was in total shock. Somehow volunteers around me were able to get me into an ambulance, and I was taken to a nearby hospital. Then I was taken by air ambulance to Kalispell. I suffer from 2 broken vertebrae in my back and 5 broken ribs. My arms are so strained from hanging on for dear life, and I hit my head on something. I'm having jaw pain and difficulty just trying to eat. I saw death and destruction around me that I'll never be able to forget. At the hospital, Amtrak offered no help. The whole experience was lacking in concern for my care and safety. I even had to get myself home from Medford, Oregon, an hour and a half away. I don't know what I would do without good Samaritans all around us. I speak to you today to make the public aware that Amtrak and those responsible for this tragedy must be held accountable for the mistakes they make. They cannot offer what they hold out to be safe transportation, then walk away when people are killed or injured for their entire lives. That's why I hired Clifford Law Offices to represent me in my fight to do the right thing. Amtrak has to do the right thing.
Judge?
Thank you, Justin. And I would just like to say that what Justin and all of our clients and future clients that we're talking to right now, what they went through and they experienced was a horrific experience, event that should never have happened. I implore all of you, the distinguished press, to just go on the Amtrak website. And on the Amtrak website, you'll see a statements by them on why Amtrak. And I'm going to share with you a few of their words on how they describe their passenger train system that parenthetically is funded and owned by the taxpayers of this great country. And here's how they describe why you should travel on Amtrak. No traffic jams, no parking fees. Our trains will take you to the heart of the action quickly and safely, while consuming less energy and producing fewer harmful contaminants than either by cars or planes. Amtrak is the smarter way to go. It's the better way to travel. Hop aboard. We invite you to come along and discover the joys of traveling again. Well, what happened in 2015, that horrific derailment, 2017, where we were intimately involved with many of the passengers that were injured, and Chris Riddle, my partner, and Sean Driscoll, my other partner, took a case to trial in Tacoma, Washington for our clients. And in 2021, this derailment should not be happening in this country in 2021. It's inexcusable. It should be a never event. And we are going to hold Amtrak, BNSF responsible. And we're doing it for our clients and for the future of all traveling passengers in the United States. With that, I would like the press to ask any questions you have. Some questions we'll be able to answer directly. Other questions, Justin may share his experience and thoughts with you as well. Before we get to that, I want my partner, Chris Riddle, just to talk to you about the arbitration clause that's on the tickets and what our position is on that change to this taxpayer-owned entity. And he'll address that at this time.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, everyone may not be aware of this, but in 2019, Amtrak introduced an arbitration clause into their tickets. It's language that's intended to prevent the victims of a derailment like this from ever having their cases heard within the American judicial system. The arbitration agreement seeks to force victims to have their cases heard through arbitration. That's a system outside of the American judiciary. It's a system that lacks accountability, and it shuts out the public, and it shuts out the other victims. It's a system that has no review. Not only is it bad policy, but it's inconsistent with the Constitution and inconsistent with American values. We're guaranteed a day in court as Americans. What we have here is a government entity, Amtrak, and they're seeking to prevent Americans from exercising their constitutional right to a day in court. That is fundamental to our democracy. And what we're talking about now is fundamentally unfair. These constitutional rights are something that should not be subject to corporate cost-saving measures. If there's any questions anybody has, we'd be happy to try to answer them.
We do have some photographs we'd like to show. I think we have one of our techs is participating in this video press conference. And if we could, Zach, if we could pull up the pictures we have of the train that Justin was a passenger on. If we could do that now, I'd appreciate it. And with your cursor, he will point to the actual train that Justin was a passenger on. It should be explained to all of you that Justin was in the observation car, which obviously Amtrak advertises extensively, that you could see the surrounding territory that the train is traversing. And he had to use the facilities, and he went into the washroom, which is the car that is depicted at the end of this, in the foreground of the background of the picture there that the cursor's on. And then once he went into the bathroom, the derailment occurred. We could move on to the next picture. And this is his perspective. He actually sat on the top of the car, and he wouldn't leave the top of that car. It just so happened that carrying with him was one of his dear and best friends' ashes, remains, and he would not leave the top of that car until someone or somehow he was able to retrieve that. There was somebody that actually went into the car and actually successfully retrieved that item for him, thankfully, because with his injuries, there was no way that he was able to move around. Next picture, please. And this is just another perspective of a photo taken soon after the derailment. And now we'll go to, there's 5 other photos I'll share with you, and then we'll open up for questioning. And these were taken right after the accident. These are taken by other clients of ours, not a news agency. Next photo. Next photo. And you should be all reminded that at the time of the derailment, this train was going 79, 80 miles an hour. So when his car separated from the remaining cars and locomotives, you could only imagine how fast that car was dragging along the ground, accumulating the dirt and rocks into this space where he had to dig himself out eventually to escape. Next photo. And this is in the middle of nowhere. You know, if it wasn't for the volunteers, there would have been even more sad events occurring. And I think, is that the last photo, Zach? Is there another one? Thank you. And with that, we'll open up the floor to any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions from anyone who's on here, or have we answered everything that everybody needs?
I have a question. My name's Megan Lewis. I'm with ABC Fox Montana out of Great Falls. Justin, you said Amtrak must be held accountable. What does that mean and look like to you?
Justin, if you can unmute your, great, thank you.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. You said that Amtrak must be held accountable. What does that mean to you? What does that look like for you?
Well, I think, you know, here, I would rather answer that for him. Here, most of our passengers, this is their first time in the legal system, okay? Their first time exposed to actually a lawsuit against an entity that harmed them. So there's varied ways to compensate someone. Justin may never be made whole, okay? So there's psychological and emotional damage. There's physical damage. He's still seeking surgical advice from orthopedic specialists. You know, here, would he like his life to return to the day before he got on this train? I think he would. Justice for him means making railway safer for everyone. That's why he chose to do this. He thinks it's important that someone be heard that was on that train, and nobody's been heard yet and been given access to. And he wants to be compensated for any injury that he has, and and we don't even know the full extent and nature of that injury. So I want to answer that question for him, because there's a lot of variables that go into that he is not a lawyer. He doesn't know what we're going to pursue for him, but we're going to pursue all those various options to make him as whole as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question.
I have a quick question. My name is Colt Randstad with KRTV, the CBS affiliate in Great Falls. I apologize. I jumped on a little late. I was coming from another story. I don't know what was said before I jumped on here, but could you guys just real quickly reintroduce yourselves for me and kind of, I guess, to the extent that you can, in brevity, recap what was said up to this point, if you don't mind.
Well, so
Sure,
I'm
that-
happy to do that, and the judge can, but keep in mind too that this is being recorded, and you can also view it in its entirety if you have time later, later on today or whenever you
Oh,
want.
okay.
Okay,
Okay.
but
I
just
think
by
that would
way
be-
of a quick summary, go ahead and introduce yourselves if you'd like.
Yep, I'm Henry Simmons. I'm the managing partner, retired judge of Clifford Law. My partner, Chris Riddle, is to my left. Justin Ruddle is our client. So it is video, it has been videotaped, it's recorded, so you could hear his entire statement. And I think that'd be better than us parodying what had just occurred.
Okay, and this is the, I know you guys filed another lawsuit with some other passengers in this case. This is the second lawsuit regarding the train derailment that's being filed. Is that correct?
Yeah, Coulter, I'll answer that for you. Christopher Riddle. We just recently filed on behalf of 7 plaintiffs here in the Northern District of Illinois, in Chicago in federal court. And just this morning, we filed on behalf of 4 more additional plaintiffs in the same venue.
Do you know why these plaintiffs chose to be part of this round of lawsuits rather than lumped in with the other 7?
Oh, yeah, and I don't believe there's really any significance to the timing within a week or anything like that. No.
Okay. Do you guys know, are there any other potential lawsuits that may be filed from other passengers that you guys are working with at this point?
Yeah, without question, Coulter.
Gotcha. Okay. And where will I be able to review the full statement or the full interview later today?
It'll be on cliffordlaw.com, www.cliffordlaw.com. The
Okay.
press release and the written statement are on the home page. Also, there's a drop-down bar that says news. You can go to either blog or press releases, and you could see it'll be, the complaints are there with the docket numbers that were filed today, as well as then we're going to, this recorded press conference that will include video of Justin Ruddle reading his statement and everything that's occurring here now.
Okay. And do you know what time that will be posted online roughly?
Within the hour, as soon as this
Okay.
concludes.
Okay. And Justin, while I've got you here, just one quick question, and you may have answered this in your statement, and if you did, I apologize, but kind of like the other reporter was asking, what does it mean? What would it mean to you to be able to get some form of, I guess, justice, if you want to call it that, as a result of this lawsuit?
Coulter, maybe I'll jump in for a second here. And, it is pretty similar to the question Megan answered. All of our clients, including Justin, are seeking full and fair compensation for their physical and emotional injuries that they sustained in this derailment. And in addition, they're seeking answers. They're seeking accountability on behalf of the defendants here, Amtrak and BNSF. And they're seeking to ensure that a derailment like this never occurs again.
Gotcha. And again, just one other question for Justin. And if you mentioned this in your statement, I apologize. Where were you going on the train? Where were you coming from? And where were you going to, if you can say?
You can answer that.
I was coming from Maine on the East Coast, back to Oregon, West Coast. The whole
Okay.
purpose was to get a good view of the country. I'd never done it before. And the train ride, from what I've been told by people, was the best way to experience the sights and sounds of traveling across the country.
Thanks,
Okay.
Justin.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do you have any other questions from anybody?
Amy Hansen with the Associated Press in Montana.
Hi there.
Hi, I'm not sure if, I was trying to figure out if Justin was in the second to last car or the last car. I couldn't tell from the pictures.
So it was
It
the,
looked like he was in
yeah,
the back 3, right?
yeah, it was the car right in front of the observation car.
I don't know which one was the observation car, so I'm trying to figure out, is that is that a picture of the final 3 cars that are on their side?
It is.
Okay, So,
And there's some Google.
and I don't know which
Yeah,
angle.
there's some Google photos that obviously we're not using because they're Google photos, but you could take a look at them. They're from an aerial view, and then you could really see the layout of the whole train from a top-down viewpoint.
But this looks like it's facing. Is this facing east or west? I can't tell if this photo's taken from the.
Yeah, Justin could answer that for you, that particular view.
That's the forward facing of the train. The
So this-
arrow is towards the front. The train was, traveling towards the west, obviously. So the
Okay.
rear of the train is behind us out of the picture, and the very front of the train is where that got separated, is up there in the picture.
Okay, that's better. Okay, so you were in that first car.
The car with the red arrow pointing to it.
Okay, so you were in the first car of the three that were laying on their side and separate.
Yes, I was right in that car
Okay,
on the bottom level.
okay. So, and were you then on the right side of the car where it tipped?
I was on the left side
Okay,
and looking down at the ground. The outside door was peeled open, and the bathroom door, the lock failed for whatever reason, and it flew open. And from inside the bathroom, I could look outside the train and see all the gravel and dirt and everything that was outside that's along the tracks getting scooped up into the car as it was skidding down the side of the tracks. If I would have let go, I would have fell down and out that door and got crushed by the train or ground up in the dirt.
so then what did you hang on to?
Excuse me?
You said you were hanging on to something.
Yeah, the bathroom I was in was actually considered like a change room. So as soon as you
Okay.
first walk into it, there's a little bench for people to sit down and change their clothes. And there was a
Okay.
like a handicap handrail on the wall.
You were hanging on to that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How fast was it that those cars tipped over? Like from when you first felt a thud or whatever to when it was on its side?
The jolt was pretty quick. It was just back and forth. And then the car was maybe a second later, the car was on its side, sliding down the sides of the track. There was more time of it sliding than there was anything. And I was able to watch all that gravel and rock and railroad spikes filling up that compartment that I was in the train.
Thanks, Justin.
You're welcome.
They also said that you had the ashes of a friend of yours with you that you were bringing back. Were you bringing that back to Oregon or?
I was taking the ashes to the East Coast. I'd always promised my friend that me and him was going to go to the East Coast. That was one of our goals, something that we talked about quite a bit and was never able to make happen. He actually died in the vehicle of mine in the back seat that we were going to drive to the East Coast. That became not an option anymore. And the train, from everybody, what I was told, was the great way to travel across the country. So I took his ashes that were in a glass piece that somebody made for me to the East Coast and went and walked out into the ocean and kept my promise to him and saw the Atlantic Ocean with him. We saw it together and we were on our way home. And that's when that train got derailed. And I didn't want to get off that train or leave that train until I had his ashes back in my possession. And there was a kind person that was able to go in there because I couldn't get into that car. And a lady who was also on the train, she remembered where I was sitting and she went back in there and got my bag that contained the glass piece that had the ashes, and she went and fetched it and brought it back out for me.
Thanks, Justin.
You're welcome.
I think that was, so you had traveled on the train across to
From
the East Coast
Oregon.
first?
Yeah, from Oregon to Maine a week and a half before
Okay,
before this derailment happened.
So then you were on the way back?
Yes,
with-
ma'am.
So, okay, all right, thank you.
Okay,
and I have
thanks
one-
for that. Go ahead,
I-
Chris.
I have one other question. What
Oh.
is, and this may have already been mentioned, but what is the timeline for all of this? Obviously, the lawsuits are being filed today. I'm sure this is not going to be a quick process, but what kind of generally is the timeline for something like this?
Oh, yeah, thanks. So as I think we've stated before, we have deployed a team of investigators, as we did in the last Amtrak derailment, former NTSB and FRB investigators to find answers for us. That's occurring. These lawsuits have been filed. And now that the lawsuits are on file, we're going to have a schedule that's put in place by the judges that are controlling this litigation. And we'll be proceeding in an orderly way according to that schedule once that's in place.
Is this something that these things typically take months to play out, years to play out? What has been your guys' experience?
You're asking in terms of a lawsuit?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, I think if we looked at the last derailment as some type of guide here, 18 months, 2 years, somewhere in there.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Of course, the NTSB has indicated that they're going to release their preliminary report within 30 days. And I believe last time for the derailment of Amtrak 501, it took about 18 to 24 months until the final report was released by the NTSB. So that's kind of another indication about how that investigation is going to proceed.
Okay, very good, Chris. Any other questions from anyone?
Yeah, hi, this is Bill Hutchinson at ABC News.
Hi,
I
Bill.
had a couple of questions. Christopher, could you explain the arbitration clause that Amtrak put in? Do you think that was because of all the lawsuits that they lost and or had to settle, for one thing?
Well, so it's hard to say. I don't know what their reasoning was. But without question, it's a cost-saving measure. And it's a measure that puts a veil over the resolution of lawsuits that are filed. And that's as much as we know. There's no question that that is what occurs within an arbitration. So beyond that, we would really be guessing as to what the motivation was. I guess the timing, as kind of your question suggests, is something that would lead us to believe maybe it was done in the wake of these other incidents and was done, in fact, to save money.
And if I could ask Justin a question about that, were you even aware that that clause existed when you bought a ticket, precluding you from, trying to have your day in court?
Justin, yeah, can you want to unmute yourself too?
I mean, I'll step in here and of course, Justin's not an attorney, and I can tell you that he is not familiar with arbitration clauses, so.
Yeah, I was just asking, I mean, this is something that, I mean, you buy a ticket, the last thing you think about is, hey, if something happens, I'm not going to be able to sue. I mean, that's kind of a crazy thing.
Yeah, well, it's very similar. You go to a baseball game, we have the playoffs, baseball playoffs. How many people sit down in the seat after they buy a ticket and read the back of the ticket and try to figure out, hey, look, I'm going to get hit by a baseball, and if I do, what rights do I have? When you get on a train like Amtrak, and you heard me earlier about how they promote themselves as a great way to see the country. Are you really thinking about a train derailing and you holding on to a handicap bar while the train door is open and you're looking at death's door? I think the question answers itself.
Mhm.
People don't look at the back of the ticket. And it's reprehensible in my mind. I think our founding fathers would roll over in their graves to find out that an entity that's owned by the taxpayers of this great country is trying to prevent people from using the court system, a court system that would be made up of the peers to determine what would be fair and reasonable compensation for somebody who went through such a horrific event. That should be the news story across the land. And I think that in Washington and our distinguished politicians, perhaps they take a look at this and they change this, because it's reprehensible. And no, people don't get on Amtrak thinking that Amtrak is somehow going to screw them down the road and keep them and bar them and prohibit them from going to a court system that's been in place since this country was founded.
And if I could ask Justin one more question, will you ever take Amtrak again?
No, I certainly won't.
And also, your injuries, are they, are you still in pain, and is that affecting maybe your profession and what you do for a living?
I was supposed to start a job on my way back after I got back, which I'm not able to. So no, I'm not able to work. The pain is unreal. I'm not able to sleep at night. I have a hard time eating, like I mentioned before, because of the injury to my jaw and side of my head. It's unreal. I never thought this was going to happen. The pain is unbelievable. I could barely sleep, if any, at night. And yeah, it's just, it's not the life I want to live.
And just generically, what do you do for a living?
I'm a mechanic.
Thank you, Justin.
And
welcome.
Bill, I'd just say, adding on to that, relative to all of our clients and all of the victims of the Empire Builder derailment, long after these cases have been tried, the victims of this derailment are going to be living with the scars of this tragedy. So,
And it's worthy to note that Chris and our other partner, Sean Driscoll, most of the cases were resolved in the 2017 crash. But when Amtrak would not give our client a reasonable compensation for the injuries they sustained, they took the case to trial. So Clifford Law went to Tacoma, Washington, in front of a federal judge and picked a jury of citizens of the United States and did a trial. And they obtained 16.7 million, was it, Chris? $16.7 million for two of our clients. Perhaps the ulterior motive of putting an arbitration clause in place is to deprive these people of fair compensation that is meted out by other citizens. Here in the court, the judge was an excellent, neutral, fair judge that gave a fair playing field to everybody, even Amtrak, well-respected federal judge. And the jury heard the evidence that was closely monitored by the court. And maybe Amtrak wasn't happy with these people obtaining fair compensation from a jury of their peers. But
I
shame
think
on
that you
them.
froze here. Are you frozen? We can't hear you, Judge.
We're not frozen.
you lost us, Pam?
No, I think we hear you fine.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We might have lost Pam, our partner, communications partner, but does anyone have any questions? They're great questions. Any other questions by any members of the press? Could we still be heard? Did we lose our communication? Are we okay?
Lost Pam. it looks like.
Yeah, I think Pam may have dropped off.
Yeah.
Okay. So if there's no other questions, we could conclude. I want to thank everybody for being here. Justin, it's very painful to sit for this period of time. He's a tough guy, but he went through a terrible experience, as you all could imagine. And I want to thank all of you for giving him an opportunity to share his story. And I want to thank all of you for your concern, your profession, and your responsibilities to reporting the truth and covering this event. So if there aren't any other questions, thank you all. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And hope to see you again soon.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.